Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and along for the ride are to two greatest co-hosts I have on podcasting, Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How you doing, gentlemen?
Very good. How are you?
Hello, hello, hello.
Doing great, doing great. As we are going into Week 15, reviewing the games from Week 15, and coming down to the final week, there's a lot that's going to be coming up, a lot of positioning that's going on. There's one game that is basically a win and you're in. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into the games from this past week and move on to the next phase. So starting off with the games, the first one that we have on the list is New York going into Atlanta, and Atlanta taking that win 24-17. We're going to start this one off with Mitch and then swinging over to the coach Dean. So Mitch, let's kick it off with you.
All right. Well, this is one of those back-to-back, home and home games that we see occasionally here in the PNFL. Last week, Atlanta, went into New York and won. And this week, they hosted New York and another close game, another one-score game, came away with the victory. Anxious to hear what Coach Chambers, what he has to say around how they overcame those three turnovers. Ended up -2 in the turnover battle, but ended up winning the game. So statistically, everything else was pretty close. But usually it's the other way around. You lose a turnover battle in a close game and you lose. But in this case, Atlanta won. So anxious to see what Dean has to say.
Dean, go ahead, Coach. What happened?
Well, a few comments. This was kind of an interesting challenge because one, the Giants coach and I are very familiar with each other and what we do, having worked together on some things in the past. Two, we played 2 weeks in a row, which was a kind of a unique challenge. And the way I approached this was to kind of game plan for both weeks at the same time and ensure that I did some different things in one game that I did in the other. Now, as for the game itself, at one point in the first half, the Giants were leading 17-7. And the reason for that was primarily two of the three of those turnovers. One of them didn't mean a whole lot, but two of the three of those turnovers were very impactful. And the Giants had basically scored most of the points on turnovers. At the time I was thinking that my offense was playing fairly well in slowing down and stopping the Giants, but my offense was turning the ball over, leading to Giants scores. And I was thinking at that point, if that's the way the game had ended, the story of the game was that my offense scored as many points, if not more, for the Giants than they did for my own team. But the good news is after being down 17-7, my offense got its together and scored enough. And the defense basically shut out the Giants for the rest of the game. At that point, going from 17-7, so that's how you get the final score of 24-17. And then that last turnover, one of my players was about to score an additional touchdown, which would have made it 31-17, fumbled near the goal line. So that's how we arrive at that score.
Okay, so overall,
that's how we overcome the turnovers as well.
Yeah, we got to stop the turnovers, especially you had two of them and you lost both of them, so you got to cut down on that. So moving on to the next game, we have Denver and Green Bay going into overtime, and Green Bay taking this one in overtime by the score of 28-22. Dean.
Denver did pretty much everything it needed to do to win this game, except actually win the game. There were 3 or 4 possessions that kicked field goals. Any one of those, if it was a touchdown, they would have won. They missed the PAT. If they'd gotten that, they would have won. I mean, like I said, the breaks just didn't go their way. And, at overtime, anything can happen. And in this case, in overtime, the momentum went with Green Bay, and Green Bay scored that game-winning touchdown in overtime. But any number of things, if Denver had just gotten one more break here and there, the new coach of Denver would have gotten his first win in the PNFL. And I really thought that was going to happen as I watched the game, but didn't quite happen.
Okay. Mitch.
Well, I was glad to see that Green Bay figured out how to play offense again, since they have, I think, the worst rated offense in the league, or at least in the bottom three. And they had really struggled to score in the last several games. And so putting up 28 there was a little bit of surprise, but especially on the road in a hostile environment that we know Mile High Stadium is. And Dean, remember, this would not have been Denver's new coach, Coach Santos's first win. He actually got his first win, I think, in Week 1 against Jacksonville, his first week in the league. So he was close to getting win number 2. But congratulations, Green Bay.
Okay. Next game, we have San Francisco taking on Anaheim, and they did a walk on Anaheim by the score of 31-3. Mitch.
I was actually disappointed. I thought Anaheim had really got themselves together. They'd gotten their record back to 7-7. They had that unique home and home series with San Francisco. Basically, if they were to win those 2 games, I think could have made the playoffs. San Francisco said, "Nope, we're going to stay in this playoff race," and absolutely stomped them. Absolutely stomped them by 28 points. So, congratulations to Charlie.
Dean.
Yeah, the Rams offense just didn't show up for this game. 199 total overall yards, 6 and 15, 40% on third downs, 70 yards of rushing. I mean, only 129 net yards in passing. Gross yards is 142. It just doesn't cut it. That's all I can say. That's not going to win games against San Francisco. That performance wouldn't beat Jacksonville.
Yeah. Next game, we have New Orleans taking on the Seahawks. They're already cooked. They're already getting crispy on the grill. So we can skip over it. No. Okay. Dean, let's go ahead and get started with you.
Yeah, I can't say this was necessarily a surprise, but I was thinking that Seattle had a chance of pulling off an upset here. But
so did I.
I mean, there were some things that went in Seattle's direction. I mean, better third down efficiency and 2 out of 3 on fourth down. Almost as many total yards, more rushing. Not quite enough passing, I guess.
Fumbles.
Yeah, those don't help either.
And an interception.
Yeah, minus the turnover, Seattle probably wins this game.
Yep. Mitch.
Well, I think I said last week, Seattle had kind of found their defense. Well, they gave up 332 yards to Thor's cousin there, Clayton. So I don't know. I tell you what, that receiver Chark for New Orleans, I don't even know who that is. I don't even ever heard of Chark, but
Oh yeah,
he
DJ
caught 4
Chark. Yeah,
balls.
he's no joke.
Yeah, I mean, he caught 4 balls for 121 yards, for crying out loud. So I think we need to cover him for sure. But hey, it is what it is. Seattle, you'll bring it home next week.
All right, next game we have New York taking on Detroit. New York Jets taking on Detroit, and they walked away with the victory, 35-24. Mitch.
Well, Detroit continues to run that silver stretch offense, 67 pass attempts with only 8 rushing attempts. Allowing that rookie quarterback to put up a ton of yards, but not a ton of victories this year. Jets, oddly, kind of, I don't know. To me, they seem a little bit off, but they took advantage of turnovers, and they're able to put 35 on the board. So that's my thoughts.
Dean.
Yeah, I think Detroit played this game pretty tough, and the passing game was fairly effective, but the turnovers really got them again as it did the previous week. I think if they didn't turn the ball over 3 times, they would have beaten the Jets.
I would agree with that as well. Would you agree with that one, Mitch?
Yeah, they'd have definitely had a better shot at it for sure.
Yep. Next one on the list, we have Indianapolis playing Minnesota, and they took that game by 10, 27-17. Dean.
Yeah, Indianapolis played this game fairly well. They're another team that some weeks doesn't seem to show up, and other teams did very well. And this was a pretty solid performance. They averaged 7.1 yards per pass, which is very good. They ran the ball for 161 yards. They played some pretty decent defense against Minnesota and ended up winning by 10 points.
Okay, Mitch.
Yeah, I figured it would have been like a 17-10 Minnesota victory because Minnesota typically plays stingy defense. But wow, yeah, that quarterback we all love, Kyle Allen, 300 more yards this week, and they had a running game. 161 yards on the ground. So nice overall win there.
Yep, nice even balance. Next game that we have on the list.
They're running back too, by the way.
Oh, say again now?
Yes.
What was that again?
They stuck with that running back, and he gained 86 yards.
Oh, yeah. Yep, stuck with the running back and got those yards. So definitely well balanced. So on both sides. Next game we have New England taking on Jacksonville, and New England picked up on that momentum from last week, winning this game 28-17. Mitch.
Well, New England finally avenged their losses against Jacksonville. I know that this was a big one to keep New England in the playoff race, and they are stepping up and getting hot at the right time of the season. So, if they can win this week, I believe they are in. So we'll see what happens. But nice job there, Coach Mox.
Dean.
They ran the ball 28 times for an average of 4.8 yards per rush, which is pretty good. They threw the ball 22 times, but look at that completion percentage, 19 out of 22 completion percentage. You can't get much better than that.
No, you cannot. You can't. I haven't seen that one before. Not that high percentage. 86%. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that one. That's pretty high. So as we are coming down to the final two games, the second to last one we're going to go with is Oakland going into LA and walking away with the victory 23-16. We're going to start with Mitch on this one. And we're going to start with Dean on this one. Then we're going to move over to Mitch. So Dean, we'll let you kick this one off.
Yeah, this was a pretty close game. It was pretty tough. And I thought that LA had a chance at winning this game, but it just seemed as I watched the game that the Chargers offense didn't quite seem to be getting it done. Kaiser only got 50% of his passes completed. They ran for 30 times for 107 yards. That's not bad. But this just seemed to be a little something lacking, or maybe it was because Oakland's defense played very well and they came up obviously short by a touchdown.
Okay, so we're going to move over to Mitch. Go ahead and we already know what you're going to say. Go ahead and downplay it. Go ahead, Mitch.
No, well, as I said before, it was just a pleasure to be able to take the field.
Okay, Coach Holtz, Lou Holtz.
Los Angeles definitely had some good game planning, especially with their short yardage defenses. Really stymied some of my drives in the red zone on short yardage. So, lucky to get the victory.
Dean, is it just me, or is this man just the sandbag? It's just dripping with just sandbagginess, downplaying it.
Right.
Yes.
It's just a little Holtz act, but Yeah, there is a point to be made there. Both teams kicked 3 field goals, so both teams had trouble in the red zone, and both teams only scored, I believe, well, be a touchdown difference. Oakland scored one more touchdown, 2 touchdowns, and the Chargers only scored 1 touchdown. So that was pretty much the difference. But keep in mind, every time your team scores a field goal on offense, that potentially could have been a touchdown. So those are missed opportunities, basically. In this case, there was plenty of that for both teams. They each kicked 3 field goals.
Yep. Last game on the docket that we have here. This is Chicago going into Washington, and they walked out with the victory. Washington walked away with the victory, 23-13. Dean.
Yeah, this was a defensive struggle too, involving quite a few field goals that were kicked by both teams, and again, a total of 3 total of 5 out of 6 field goals kicked. 5 of them were made. Again, these offenses both had trouble as well, and Chicago even had more trouble on offense, uncharacteristically so for Chicago's offense. It is usually pretty productive and puts up quite a few points. I think maybe the key there was that the Washington pass defense was fairly good at containing the Cardinals' offense, the passing game specifically.
Mitch.
Well, I think that Darius Geis, I don't think that was Darius Geis on the field for Washington. I think Jerry was able to bring back, some of those great Washington running backs from the 80s, and they played that Joe Gibbs offense. John Riggins came in and put on Geis's uniform because they averaged 7 yards a carry, gaining 171 yards. And I can't say they controlled the game since, time of possession was about the same, but that ground game, their longest pass was 17 yards. Their longest run was 37. So that ought to tell you how the game went right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, but I think there were some implications on this. We're going to go into the next segment and talk about that. But as we come to wrap up all the games from Week 15, there were some good games out there. Again, a lot of them are setting up a lot of these games from Week 15 set up the stage for Week 16. So, as we go to pivot over to the final week of the season, I guess the key word or the word of the day are playoffs, and we're going to go ahead and start this off. We're going to have Dean start this off going into the AFC and the NFC race, and then we're going to have Mitch come in behind him and give us his take on it. So let's go ahead and start you off with this, Dean. What do you see coming up in the final week?
Okay, we'll start with the AFC again, and 2 questions to be decided there, really. Well, 3 questions. Number 1 is the 4th spot going to New England or Denver? New England needs either their own team to win or Denver to lose, and they're definitely in. Denver needs to win and have New England lose in order to get in, because New England has a tiebreaker based on head-to-head. The second question is decided is who wins the AFC West. And if those 2 teams finish tied, I may be wrong, but I think the Chargers would have the tiebreaker. Oakland has 2 opportunities to not only win the division, but if Oakland wins and the Jets lose because of that tiebreaker head-to-head, Oakland would have the number 1 seed and play potentially both playoff games at home. In the NFC, the surest bet there is that Washington is winning the NFC East. That's definite. The NFC West is going to come down to the Saints and Cardinals, and they play this week, and whoever wins that is in. San Francisco has a shot of being in if they win this weekend. If they lose, they finish 1 game out of playoff contention. And Atlanta definitely is in with a win over Green Bay at 11-5, a loss to Green Bay 10-6. Then we're getting into tiebreakers, and whether or not San Francisco loses, San Francisco has the tiebreaker over Atlanta based on the game earlier this season. So that's what I see going on there.
A lot of things in play over there, a lot of moving pieces in the final week. Mitch, what do you think?
Well, first, let me be the first one to say congratulations to Washington and Coach Seymour there for winning the not only the NFC East but having the number one seed in the NFC. And so I just wonder if now Coach Seymour will rest all of his starters, even though he does have a big game against the Jets this week, but. It really doesn't mean a thing to Washington. They've wrapped up all they need to wrap up. So that'll be interesting to see how Jerry plays that. If you know we play to win the games, or are we going to rest the starters? We'll see. Everything else kind of falls in line with what Dean was talking about. It is going to be interesting to see. Obviously, my Raiders will be right in the thick of a lot of things that Dean talked about, but outside of my own team's playoff ambitions, I am really interested to see how this NFC really turns out, because you've got New Orleans playing Chicago, which is basically the battle for the NFC West title, right? It's the NFC West title game going on this week, which that'll be fun to watch. New Orleans has already beaten Chicago once this year, but this time it's in Chicago. Who knows? You might have some snow. You never know, right? On that piece. The other part is, San Francisco just beat, Anaheim, handily, but they got to turn around and play them again. And if San Francisco wins, which they're going to, actually, I think they're favored, right? It really does come down to, does Green Bay, who, at times this year has shown that they can, they've beaten Chicago, they've beaten some other teams that are solid out there. Could they pull off a week 16 surprise, and suddenly we have like a 3-team tie for that fourth playoff spot in the NFC? And then, like Dean said, then it's all about tiebreakers. And so it's going to be a late night this Saturday, I think, with these games are being played. So I'm looking forward to it. Makes it a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it makes it very very interesting as far as that final week. So it makes it. I think there'll be a lot of people watching all the games, especially the key games. I mean, this is when, and I think from talking with the commission, I think he said viewership was up from the streaming games this season, and I think this one, week 16, will definitely kick it up even to a next level, because all these games are definitely exciting and intriguing finding out, especially on the NFC side with so much at stake. So as we close that segment up, we're going to move on into the week 16 games. As we just got finished talking, we're going to dive into it a little bit better. So first game that we have on the list, we have the Lions going in to play the Colts. They are giving the Lions 6.5. Dean, let's start with you.
I think Detroit is going to win and cover in this game.
Okay, Mitch.
I am going to go with my second favorite quarterback in the league, Kyle Allen, to pull off the upset here at home.
Okay. Next game, we have the Redskins going in and play the Jets. Jets, they're predicting them 4.5. Mitch.
Well, you know what? I'm going to just say that I wouldn't be surprised if the Redskins sit some players, and so I'll take the Jets, because this game is much more meaningful for the Jets and the Redskins this week.
Okay, Dean.
I don't think Washington is going to sit their players, but I think they'll be a bit outplayed, at least by the Jets offense versus the Washington defense. I think the Jets are going to win and cover.
Okay. We have the Falcons going against the Packers. They are giving the Falcons 7.5. Mitch.
Just because I want to see chaos on the NFC playoff picture, I'm going to go with the Packers.
Ouch. Dean.
No, it's not going to be chaos. It's going to be order. It's going to be. It's going to be Atlanta winning. That's not chaos. Chaos has not really been winning the last weeks. You know, some of us, I guess, wanted to see a little chaos and see Anaheim beat the 49ers. Didn't happen. So we leave the chaos to Washington, D.C., and the PNFL will stick with order.
Okay. Next one. And don't forget, you guys each have a lead pipe lock, so got to use it. Next game, we have the Giants going in to play the Patriots. We have the Patriots with 7.5. Dean.
Giants are going to come prepared, but I think Patriots have a bit of momentum in their favor. I think New England wins, but they will not cover the spread.
Mitch.
Yeah, I think New England is going to win this game and get to the playoffs. I think it will be a little closer than 7.5, though.
Okay, we have the 49ers going up against the Rams. They are giving the 49ers 10.5. Mitch.
Well, since again, I want to see chaos, I'm going to say the 49ers win this game, but I think the Rams will want to redeem themselves, so I think it will be less than 10.5.
Dean.
Yeah, again, I'm not voting for chaos here. Joshua Dobbs playing at home week 16 in front of the fans is going to rise to the challenge. He's going to play a great game. Rams win by upset, not chaos.
Okay. Next one, we have the Saints going up against the Cardinals. They are giving the Cardinals 8.5. Dean.
Well, if you can call this chaos, this may be the closest I come to chaos in my predictions this week. And I think what's going to happen is this is my lead pipe lock of the week. The Saints are going to pull off the upset and win this game and win the division.
Mitch.
I'm going to go the opposite direction and say the Cardinals are going to win and cover this game.
Okay, next game we have Jacksonville going into Seattle to play the Seahawks, and they are giving the Seahawks 3.5 over the Jags. Mitch.
This is my lead pipe lock of the week. Now, anyone who follows the PNFL knows that the Seahawks play much better at home with the 12th man. In fact, of their 5 victories, 4 have come at home. And so I think Seattle is going to finish the year on a high note. They're going to win this game. They're going to cover that spread, and they're going to go into the off season, scratching their head about some of the games they lost on the road this year. So that's my lead pipe lock of the week.
Dean.
Yeah, I think this game will be a preview of what we'll see coming from Seattle next season. Seahawks going to win this game. 3.5 spread isn't much of a spread to cover. They'll definitely cover. Seahawks win and cover.
Next game we have the Raiders going up against the Broncos. Broncos in a bit of a slide, actually quite a big slide. Major playoff implications on this one. They are giving it to the Raiders by 9.5. We're going to start with you on this one, Dean.
Yeah, the 9.5 I think is the issue. I think the spread is a bit too big. I think the Raiders offense probably will outscore the Broncos, but not by that much. So it's the Raiders win, but they do not cover the spread.
Mitch.
Well, last time, we played the Broncos in Oakland, we lost by 21 points. And
That was a
again,
headless horseman too now.
Well, but still, it's the same. The players play the games, Mark. And, my guys, I think they look at Bronco players and they get shaky. And so I'm not sure exactly what to expect going on the road, playing against that same Bronco roster. I'm hoping my team will get on the bus when we get to the airport because they might be afraid. It's we'll just see what happens. But again, I'm just happy we'll take the field against a quality opponent.
As that famous poet laureate Russell Wilson would say, Bronco country, let's ride. Last game on the list, we have the Chargers going against the Vikings, and they're giving the Chargers, 6.5 over the Vikings. Mitch.
I keep saying the Vikings are going to step up. Well, it's week 16, so the Vikings might be packing it in this week and looking towards the draft. So I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think they'll cover this game. I think the Chargers really want this. I think they want to get to that 10-win plateau, and they're still. I don't know how all these tiebreakers go when you split the head-to-heads, but I think they would have more division wins. So yeah, I think that the Chargers they have to win to give themselves a chance at the division title.
Okay, Dean.
Yeah, the Chargers are definitely going to play strong and win this game, and they're going to be rooting for Denver in the other game because that would, I believe, by the tiebreakers, allow the Chargers to win the division. So they will win and cover the spread. I mean, they only have to win by a touchdown over the Vikings. I think they'll do that, possibly by more.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, that was a quick show we ran through. So a lot of things going on with the final week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to the show and tuning in all season. So we are coming up to the end of this show, and best of luck to all the teams this week. As we know, only half of them are going to win, so unless there's a tie. But any final words that you have for this upcoming game, Dean?
I think what we'll see this weekend will mostly conform to expectations. I say mostly, but not entirely. I do not think it will be chaos again. That's we leave the chaos to politics this week and not to sports. So, but it'll be fun though. It'll be interesting games, and then postseason will be even much more interesting.
Okay, Mitch. Any final comments on these week's games, and then you can take us home.
What I got to say is, let's get it.